All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a long overdue reflection or review on the next pair of decks that I had played, which was Watto and Yommuning or Yommuning. And so, like the other kind of deck reviews for players that are kind of interested or looking for decks, this is not a strategic breakdown. I'm not quite there yet with the advantages, disadvantages, strong sides, weak sides, all that sort of stuff with decks, but just kind of how it felt to me to play, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, something that I need to get better at with the game as well. So hopefully some of these things might be helpful in deciding if it's a deck you might want to try getting into. So Watto was a deck that I actually had a bunch of games with. I think maybe not last year, but 5 or 6 months ago, before the Helper came out. And at one point, actually, before the Bow nerf, which made it the 7 Battlegrounds, I was running this version here with the Finalizer and more of the First Order people to get the used pop holes. And I really liked it because it was such a flexible platform, you know. You had your Junkyard, you had your Mos Espa, you had the Objective, you had Watto, and then after that it was whatever you wanted. You could take it in a lot of directions, and you still can. So one of the things that I really like about it is the flexibility, in the sense that if you wanted to, you could build a ground deck kind of focused around holding the Junkyard with the powerful ability to deny destinies, or you could make it a space deck and holding the Junkyard as your one kind of ground battleground. I'm playing a bunch of systems out, and I tried that for a while. Or you can make it a ground deck, just holding down Malastare, which is kind of this version. This is not exactly the version that I played in some of the videos that you watched. I made some tweaks since then. Like I said, this video is long overdue. I played those games months and months ago, just hadn't had time to get to this kind of reflection. And I experimented with variants where you're kind of trying to deny icons from the other side to kind of make it a little choke deck to synergize with them having to use to or lose to. And so yeah, I really like the flexibility of the platform. I think while the Helper makes it faster to set up and probably stronger, it does feel a little more cookie cutter in your location spread, I guess, than before. And so maybe some of that flexibility is gone. I think it's now at this point, why would you not play Malastare, Podrace Arena, and Sebulba in the deck as well? Which is fine. I think you can there's still enough flexibility to that you can make it into something that you like and enjoy. The other thing I really like about this deck is the kind of mind games aspect of the objective. So essentially the objective says you need to get Watto to the Junkyard, which is easy because you can pull them, and you need to get someone to Mos Espa, which in this new version is Sebulba, who deploys there for free, and you can pull them. And then once you do, every turn you can make a wager, essentially. You select a card, your opponent decides if they think that that's a card that has a hefty deploy cost or any kind of deploy cost, they can choose to lose 2 force, and then you don't get to deploy it for free and it goes under, or they choose to, if they don't want to take the force loss, they choose to use 2 force, but then the advantage is you get to deploy for free. unless you have picked like an interrupt and they call your bluff, then you might lose some force and some cards. Especially with the ability to pick out Watto's Chance Cube that Watto has and cycle that with this. So there's always that option of, they could have that Chance Cube face down and I could use 2 and make them lose force, or it could be a Finalizer or an Executor or a Vader, and they could get to deploy that for free. So do I take the risk, and what do I think they're going to do? What do they think I think they're going to do? Those sorts of back and forths. I really love the kind of mind game aspect of it. I think it's funner in person than it is online, but still enjoyable to play. And you do get that early damage out. Turn 1, you can reliably get the 2 damage ping because they have no force activated, and you can get to those 2 sites easily. I think from most of my games, what I did encounter is that it seemed to be that players whose names I recognized, which, I don't always assume, but players who have been around and are good players, they seem to always lose the force. They never wanted to give the opportunity that something big would come down for free and the kind of tempo that provides. So I'm not sure if that's just like a common strategy, if you play this a lot, if you're just going to see in competitive situations with someone who knows what they're doing, if they're just always going to lose the 2. And you're never going to get the chance to kind of drop something down. Maybe that's the case, maybe not. But yeah, really enjoy the deck. Downside, it can kind of run out of steam. You don't really have good drain locations, right? It's a 1 here, it's a 1 here, so you do get the ping. I tried to fix that a little by adding some cards like Presence of the Force or Maul, who adds the +1. In this case, the Finalizer on Jakku. Malistaire can get you the +1 if you control the pod race. This is probably not a good way to go, but I figured this way, if they never... I used to have the Executor effect here, and I would just hold the Executor in hand and threaten to deploy it for free, but most players would never let me drop it for free, so I thought, hey, maybe I'll try the Finalizer, and then if I need to, I can at least pay 9 to drop it down. Probably not worth the effect slot, but who knows? We'll give it a go. Anyway, I think the downside, it can run out of steam a little bit, and if you do lose control of some of these sites, then you do lose your damage output as well. And late in the game, they can use force to mitigate their damage if they don't think you're holding anything, if they're not in danger of getting ambushed by a card. So the other thing, if you're a older fan, maybe you might not like the fact that it's built around Episode 1 cards. Not my favorite types of decks to play, but I think with this one you can mix in enough other characters that I don't mind it too much either. One thing I need to get better at with this deck is really being aware of this option that they have, where they can use 8 force to essentially put Watto back, and then they can draw Destiny at the junkyard. You can save 4 to retrieve when they do that, but if they decide to set up and come here and try and take this from you, them drawing that Battle Destiny, you have to be prepared for that event that could happen. You don't want to leave the junkyard too poorly undefended, but then also you don't want to overcommit there. Those resources could be used elsewhere. So it does have that kind of balance. And I find that sometimes if they really want to force the issue, they can just do this and get rid of Watto. What did I learn in general through these games? So not related to this deck, but what was just something that came up in one of the games. I learned that the way Barrier interacts with... Is she in this deck? No, she's not. With General Leia, if you barrier her, and she initiates, she will still get to retrieve before the barrier excludes her. Which, I mean, I don't know about that. This just says prevents them from battling. I don't know that she would ever be present in a battle. Anyhow, doesn't matter. I learned that. Something to be aware of. Timing windows and all that sort of fun stuff. There's lots of different things related to barrier and clash, removing people from battle that are kind of edge cases, edge scenarios that might come up in your games. And then one thing that I need to practice or get better at in general is really allocating my force. I found in a couple games playing this deck, you know, I would do a bunch of stuff and then, oh shoot, I was going to save a force to move something and now I want to draw a card, or oh, I saved a bunch of force to play a barrier but they'd already grabbed it, so it actually cost me 3 instead of 2 or something like that. Or I'd saved force in case they wanted to bump Watto because I wanted the retrieval, but then I spent 1 to, you know, put the 6 back in my deck, and just little things. I should have saved 1 more. Those sorts of things. I think I need to get better at just planning ahead and thinking ahead before I go ahead and deploy and spend stuff. But yeah, Watto, really enjoyable deck. I like the flexibility. I'll probably keep playing it. I don't know that it's an awesome deck, but it's fairly straightforward and easy to pilot, and I think it's fun. So, all right, moving on to Yommuning. This was originally Brad's list from Endor that I had copied. I have since then made the deck worse, as I like to say, by changing a few cards in and out that I thought, you know, some cards were some of his like meta calls in the moment, and but some things I liked and wanted to try again. The back to tank in particular, I think, with a deck that's maybe a little more low character count to try and reuse some of those big mains is good. Anyhow, I really like Yommuning because, at least this version specifically with the squadron assignments, I love squadron assignments as a card. I think I've talked about this in other videos. The matching pilots theme, very cool. Maybe not super card efficient, but yeah, it just kind of stems from a love of watching the space battles in episode 1 or 4, 5, and 6 when I was a kid, and how cool that was, and then, you know, reading the X-Wing novels a little bit later growing up. So yeah, something I like any deck where you're running squadron assignments. And unlike other mains decks, I do like that it has that balance of space and ground. I know a lot of mains decks are ground heavy or ground only. This one is, I guess, fairly light in space, so maybe it could be a little more balanced, but overall it has that aspect to it. The other thing that I like is it does have that staying power, so the subtracting 2 from attrition makes sure that you can really keep your guys on the board, especially if you can hit a sand effect, so they're only drawing 1 destiny. Obviously ROPs can be a problem if they get set up, but again, I think as a mains deck you can kind of go there and beat them to the punch. Unlike some of the other mains decks, it does give away icons, so your 2 for 2s here, and your 1 from Alistair, so 5 icons, which doesn't seem like a lot, but you know, some mains decks give away 0, so there is that you do have to contend with. But yeah, I don't know if this is better than those other decks, but at least it's different, fits my playstyle a little bit better. And I think the super powerful thing with like Communing, 3PO, Ray just gives you like crazy card control. Obviously the other Communing decks do that too, but very reliable card engine and tracking engine and that sort of thing. One thing that I need to get better at with this deck, actually it is related to that, and that's taking advantage of that. This Ray Communing interaction where you can look at a bunch of cards, put one on the bottom, draw that card with Ray, or you can track cards around with 3PO and then use Communing to time your draw and that sort of thing. I think, yeah, that's something that will take practice, but can make it very easy to reuse and recycle powerful interrupts, and so that could be something in deck building you can account for. So you've got one We're Doomed here, but maybe you've got a couple other powerful interrupts that you want to keep cycling and keep finding them. It could be worse, maybe something like that. One thing I need to get better at, or one thing I learned about the deck while I was playing it, is using meditation properly. And I think I kind of tried to use it as a aggro tool. Drop Qui-Gon, drop meditation. If I remembered, there was a game where I forgot to play meditation, and then attack and use it. But I think it's better if you can not use it that way, because then you can use it two turns in a row, if that makes sense. So if you drop Qui-Gon down and attach meditation and don't attack, obviously you don't want to drop him down into a huge force if you're doing that. But if you leave him out of sight and have it so you don't attack, then that counter beatdown potential is huge. Because if you do the meditation, the first one on their turn, then on your turn you can redeploy it and hit back. Whereas if you do it on your turn, then they're going to get a turn to attack into you where you don't have it. So I think using meditation properly can definitely help. And also, playing it out of the discard is important. Don't forget it's there. I think in one game I did that as well. And then one thing I need to get better at in general, I think, is just using Walkling. Like the free force to download effect, I think, is quite powerful. And knowing when to use that and fish out something like the meditation, or fish out something like the projection. And oftentimes I just use it for the activation and the retrieval, and I forget about that other line, which makes it such a powerful mainstay in light side decks. Anyhow, Yoda Communing, enjoyable deck, fun deck, lots of different ways to build it. Definitely would recommend. Until next time, hope everyone stays safe, and may all your destinies be high.